Welcome back to Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. And guys, today's episode you are going to love. I know that a lot of you guys are going to get a lot from this, and I'm excited for how many people that you share this with. But before that, let's get this out of the way. If you get value from this or know someone who would, send this episode to them. Also, if you really, really want to be kind, hit the like and subscribe button. And man, I'll tell you what, a review really goes far. So it just helps our episodes get put out there and better recognized on the algorithms, and helps us be found better than than just not saying nothing. Plus, it gives us a chance to get better. It gives us feedback, so on and so forth. Look, we don't take any sponsorship money. I do this all for free just to give you guys value, and I bring people on here that I think that you guys can learn from and gain massive knowledge and value from. So again, please hit the like and subscribe button, all platforms. And if you're ever so kind, hit the review. But without further ado, I want to introduce a huge community figure here in our area on the Eastern Shore. Pastor Bill Cropper, how are you today?
Doing good, Branden.
Yep. So Pastor Bill Cropper's been a pastor for 29 years. Did I just hear you say that?
29, yeah.
At Uprising Church?
Yes.
That's in Hebron, Maryland?
That's right.
Were you always located there?
Yeah, it was called St. Paul's back in the day, little tiny Methodist church when we came, yeah.
Okay. And you've also understand you're transitioning out of the church now. Is that what?
Yeah, we wrapped it up in March.
Yeah.
Of last year, and my wife and I are in the early stages of creating a social media platform to do some stuff. But yeah, we're done with that.
So, quick question: How has that been? Being being the guy, being the pastor, everybody's coming to you're preaching every week, every Sunday, every day probably, and then having to sit in the pews, or because you still go to the church, correct?
Oh no, we don't. No.
Okay.
No, we're done, man. We're just kind of we are doing what a lot of people do. We're church hopping right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I started doing that when our pastor moved.
Okay.
And it's actually a pretty cool experience because you kind of get to hear different ways that different pastors get to preach and different things that they get to say. And I want to preface this episode, first of all, that this is not going to be a jam God down your throat type of podcast.
Right.
And I talk to you about this. So for our listeners who are already like, oh, here we go about that. That's not our intent. We're definitely going to talk about God and relationships and your journey. But I was more intrigued. We talked about you potentially starting your own podcast, which I'm excited to hear that. But I was more intrigued about the man who had been called to lead and the things that you've been and encountered and seen. Being a pastor for almost 30 years, you know what I mean? And having a background like you did, and then being able to, not only survive, but successfully succeed, you know what I mean, in that realm. Along with some of the conversations that we've had in passing by and in the locker rooms here at the gym, I find it very intriguing. So let's get back to that with the excuse me, with the church hopping. How's that experience been?
Yeah, we finished up in March, and we went from 100 to 0, bro. And you're on a platform, you're doing your thing for 3 decades. So it's not been easy.
Yeah.
And, you go here, you go there, you go here, you go there. And it's been, like I said, it's not been easy. My wife and I are not, there's no interest in planting anyone here. FYI, we're just in the midst of selling our home and relocating to be with our family in South Carolina, which is for another day. But, we've actually found it difficult in the area to find somewhere that we can plug into.
Do you find yourself, because of your experience, like having to catch yourself of critiquing the church? And
bro, it's man, I'm telling you, you don't want to know what's going on in my head when I'm sitting in a pew somewhere, Yeah, it's too many years of being behind the curtain.
Yeah. I asked that because I talked to a lot of police officers, right? And the thing that I say to them is like, man, I don't know how y'all do it. How do you ever turn it off?
Yeah.
Right? How do you ever shut it off? I'd be in church looking around like, I bet that guy's got something, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or going at home interrogating your wife about the meatloaf. It's like, how do you shut that part of your brain off that you've done for so long? You know what I mean? And then, you're at other churches and seeing that. So I guess that's like another example of how, you're human.
Right.
You're not, you know what I mean? Where people think the pastors are, these mythical beings that float across, the land. But I mean, you're human. You're going to experience a lot of the things that most other people do. Correct?
Yeah. And it's, it's hard to turn it off. It's, in regard to the church thing, man, it's, even though it's what I did for 30 years, it wasn't who I was.
Really?
So it really doesn't, I will say for a short period of time, it was who I was. When the platform becomes who you are, when the personality becomes who you are, then you've just completely lost contact with what you were called to do in the first place.
Really?
But in a really good place as an older guy right now, my wife and I both with this place of, it's not who we are. It's just what we did.
Give me an example of what you mean by that, because that's interesting. You say that, you know what I mean, of falling into that making it your identity so much. What do you mean by all that?
Yeah, it's this performance mentality, man. It doesn't matter whether it's the Christian culture or the church culture. I mean, you see it in Christian culture, particularly in this era of Christian music, and commercial Christianity. It becomes about performance platform. It becomes about the personality. A personality, a good performance, and a platform can build a mega church in our day.
Yeah.
And in the midst of building a mega church, man, you can build something that's created within a model in the context of the culture that will draw a lot of people. But it's having very little spiritual effect on people.
I'm sorry to cut you.
No, you go.
When did that change? When did you start realizing that was not the what's the word I'm trying to say? Persona or personality that you wanted to adopt.
Yeah, let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, please do.
So way back, man, David says in the scripture, I was once young, now I'm old. Let's go way back to when I was young in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
South Florida, Palm Beach, trying to play baseball. Actually left Ocean City, product of my environment from the beach for years.
Really?
In regard to the drugs, alcohol. Just had a gift to play baseball, and was in the gene pool. Went to South Florida under the guise of telling my parents I was going down there to Palm Beach to try out and play baseball. Had some opportunities in West Palm Beach. Get there, and man, it's in the middle of the whole cocaine cowboy documentary stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I get there, and within less than a year. Coming from Ocean City, I'm just a low-end drug running mule for some Colombians and for just some large stuff. And when I say low end, I mean low end. But I get caught up in this whole circle of addiction. And by late 1985, early 1986, I'm just, it's a steady diet of powder. And I'm not sleeping 4 or 5 days at a time. My diet is pretty much, other than the powder, is White Russians.
Holy crap.
And I'm just living on the beach in Singer Island in Palm Beach, and radically out of nowhere thinking that it's about to end. I mean, I got no way out. I got a guy that I knew that I worked with. I was tending bar on the Intercoastal there on Singer Island. Had a guy that I worked with that had been taken out to Alligator Alley by some Colombians. Man, they put a bullet in his head. Because he was cutting some stuff, some kilos, freaked out of my mind, thinking I'm going to lose my life. Raised Roman Catholic in Ocean City, man. Never been in a church my entire life, other than a Catholic church. Know nothing about the church culture. And I have this radical encounter where, not me, I'm not even looking for it, but I'm in hiding, and I turn. Back in the day, it's a stereo. We don't have cell phones. Right. We don't have headphones. We don't have podcasts.
Right.
I got my stereo, and I'm turning on FM, and, I'm just jamming powder up my nose, man, and looking out the window, seeing if anybody's coming looking for me, paranoid out of my mind. And I hit this, I'm looking for something on my stereo, and I tune in, and I hear this guy talking. And I listened to this, what would be a podcast today, but I listened to this thing on this program.
Like a radio show.
Yeah. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, man. Yeah. It's Billy Graham.
Yep.
And I'm like, what is this?
The GOAT.
Yes, man. The GOAT. Yeah. I don't know who the guy is, but he's the GOAT, man. And I don't even know what's happening. I'm literally almost audibly hearing the voice of God. And at the end of it, they talk about salvation, and and I pray this prayer, man. And they say, tune in the next day. And I tune in the next day. And I listen again, and at the end they say, pray this prayer, and I pray it again, man.
Still jamming cocaine.
Yeah,
and still
the
living
third
the same
day,
life.
man, I'm like, what's going on?
Wow.
And the third day I tune in for the final day of this crusade, And I hear them say, pray the prayer, and I pray the prayer. And for 3 days in a row. And I know, this is intended to be humorous, man. You're supposed to pray the prayer and you've given your life to Jesus. I'm praying it for 3 days in a row, man. I'm like, I'm in. And I go to bed that night after the third day. I have a dream. And in the dream, I am literally standing on the side of a hill, shouting down into a valley to a bunch of multicolored M&Ms. And I can hear the audible voice of God say, you're coming out of this. You're not going to die. You're going to live, and I'm going to use your life to preach the gospel.
So are you saying that in this moment, in this time period, you thought it was going to end, you thought you were going to get killed?
I thought I was going to get killed or take my own life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it was your buddy got offed and got in the swamps, and
yeah, man, you're talking
you
about
guys were dipping too much into the stash, and there was too much going on.
And you're also talking about 3 years of just a straight diet of powder and alcohol, you know? I mean, probably 5 to 10 years of a subculture of that.
Yeah,
the
the psychological issues of that, with depression and your highs and lows. I can only imagine.
I mean, they're not diagnosing that the same way back then as they do now, man. Sure. But you're just, I'm straight. And we all know you can only run that so long, man. I mean, it's going to take you out one way or the other.
So when you hear the voice in your dream, what happened when you woke up? What was next? Like, you said 3 days.
In less than, probably within less than a week to 10 days. No joke, man. No lie. Drugs, the addiction to the chemicals and drugs, completely gone.
Get out of here.
Never touched them again for 39 years.
Holy crap.
Within a week. Still smoking Newports, man. I remember I find this church down the street that ends up pointing me back toward where I went back to school and got my degree. But I go to this church, about 1,000 people, and I'm rolling up that day with my Newports in my pocket, and I roll in, and the pastor's preaching this message. Couldn't tell you what he said, man. I just know, but at the end of the message, I'm just like crushing my Newports, crawling on my belly to the altar, weeping and crying. Just having these real encounters with what, which is undeniably the reality of who God is, apart from anything religious, apart from church, man. I just got encountered. And it literally, I'm not talking about those places of, he saved me, and I'm saved. No, he literally saved my life, man.
So you had no kind of NA, NAA, anything like that? It
Nothing.
Just went straight from hearing the word on a radio station and then praying the prayer 3 days.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, just having a dream, and within a week and a half, you just made the change.
Chemicals are all gone. He made the change, man. Chemicals are all gone within about 6 months. I mean, the hard liquor's gone. The White Russians are gone. I drank some beer and wine for about 6 months. And then all of a sudden it's gone, man. And I just literally, and when I say I hear this voice, man, I don't hear audible voices. I've only felt like I heard it once at the beginning there. But I feel this thing inside of me just saying, people say they're free to drink. You're free not to drink the rest of your life. And it was gone, man.
That's incredible.
Literally transformed.
And how were you able to, what was the next step once you got, 6 months is over? I'm sure you're in a church pretty, faithfully. You're building your spirit now, your religious relationship with God. Where was that transition from, down there, obviously not playing baseball anymore, to coming back here?
Yeah, I hooked up at the church, man. Some guys found out I played baseball. They had a semi-pro team with Pratt Whitney's an airline. They build airplanes down there. There's a semi-pro baseball team with all these ex-pro guys, college guys. A couple guys at this large church are like, hey, you went to play. And
so you were a real baseball player. You weren't like the baseball players that, play Little League and swear they did anything and now they're coaching.
It was on a little different level. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, when I went down, I'm looking to try to find a place to make money, you
Understood.
know? And so go back and play in this semi-pro league, probably play for about a month or two. Baseball been my passion. It's my dream, man. It's the only thing that drove me from since I was 9 or 10 years old. And, I'm playing baseball with some dudes. I mean, I look up one day and there's this guy catching for another team. He looks like he's about 70, but he's probably about 45. But it's this guy, Manny Sanguillen, who had played in the World Series with Pittsburgh Pirates, and he'd retired. And you got all kinds of guys
Wow.
You know, you got like dudes playing in this league. And I'm looking around, man, and it's been my passion. I'm like, my dreams come true. I'm going to catch on with someone. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, man, I'm like, I got no passion for this anymore.
Really?
And my passion had been transformed into I'm called to something higher. I don't know what it is. I'm raised in a Roman Catholic church. I didn't grow up Pentecostal Baptist, any kind of denomination. I don't even know what's going on here. I just know that I'm called to something a whole lot different than this.
Now, did you have like people like, you know, I would probably go out on a limb and say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was probably like a leader qualities that you probably possessed. If you played baseball to that level here and then you went down to Florida, you probably were captain, you probably were popular on the baseball team, which kind of equally translates to being a leader, you know what I mean? To some people look up to you and stuff like that. Were you experiencing some of that at this point down there in this, like in your friends group or wherever you're at? Did you kind of like shift inadvertently into like some sort of like leadership, even if it was just like carrying a conversation in a group or something like that? Or did that come later? Like, what does that look like? Because I asked that because when you say you're called, right?
Yeah.
Like it's for me, I'm trying to like figure out how, like I wasn't called to do this until I was in it and I was doing it right at the gym.
Yeah.
So for me, I it was 3 years ago, Pastor Bill, maybe 4. It was 4 years ago where I actually, and I've been here 7, been doing this for 10, been in the business for 16, where I actually said the words out loud that I'm a leader.
Yeah.
And when I did that, everything changed.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. I went to a meetup with a business meetup in Texas. And next thing you know, there was, you know, some talks about that. And I just had this epiphany on the airplane back. And I was like, you know what? I'm a leader. And I wrote it down somewhere and I said, I'm a leader now. You know what I mean? And I've always been a leader, even when I was a little boy. But until I owned those words, right?
Yeah.
Everything changed for me. I can't really explain it. So like in relation to you're feeling that called sense, right?
Right.
How was there leadership there at all? Or you had this pull?
You know, it's when I say called, man, you just have this strong sense that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is going to be my life. Don't know how it's going to be my life because I don't even have a college degree. I failed at everything.
So we're not talking about being a pastor and you're just called to be in the church.
I felt like I was called to preach the gospel. I felt like I was called. I'm consumed with not any kind of religious thing. I'm consumed with this spiritual relationship I have now. I become consumed with the scripture. I become consumed. I'm like, wow, man, I'm eating this like I'm doing powder and drinking White Russians before. I'm consumed with it. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to do this. Backtrack to when I was a kid, my father and my mother, I was raised Roman Catholic, not a relationship with God at all, but my father ingrained in my brother, who was a retired assistant state's attorney, my 2 sisters and I, that you guys are leaders. From the time we were young, you're a leader, you're a leader. Mm-hmm. My father used to tell me when I was in high school, you are more gifted than all of the other children that I have. You're more gifted than most people I know, but I couldn't get out of my own way. It was the addictions, man. It was just taking me out.
Sure.
It was my Achilles heel, but I knew I was a leader. And then I have this, you just get taken out by all the other things that I'm involved in, and I'm rock bottom low. But when this happens, all of a sudden, again, I know I'm a leader. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that's going to manifest, but I'm more confident than I've ever been in my life at 26 years old. Something's going to go down.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. If you'd have told me that it was going to be, after my background, that it was going to be pastor in a church, it would start with 40 people, and grow into a small mega church that impacted the culture in this area for 30 years, I'd have been like, are you freaking kidding me, man? Yep. I remember telling God 1 of 2 things. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll never wear a suit if you want me to preach, and I won't pray out loud because Roman Catholics don't pray out loud, and it's just hilarious, man. And I never wore a suit, man. I've been dressed like this for 30 years.
Yeah.
But, if you'd have told me it was going to go down the way it did, so I didn't know what it was. I just knew I was called to lead something, and it was going to happen.
Interesting. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate. You like that pun? Here a little bit,
yeah.
And push and say, we're in an interesting time period nowadays. You know what I mean? I think with the work that Charlie Kirk was doing, and then obviously his unfortunate murder. It's pushed a lot of people to open Bibles and a lot of kids, younger people to open Bibles. And I think it's pretty remarkable because I look at like all of these just and I guess we're all lost at some point, but like so many of this generation gets these generations that are coming up are just so quickly labeled lost and have no sense of purpose and don't know what they're doing. The internet's doing this and the bop bop bop. So for them to pick up the Bible and start following Christ and getting a relationship with God, I think is extremely remarkable. But you still have so many people that just they're like, really. A whale swallowed a man. You know what I mean? Really?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And they hear things like, the stories in the Bibles and they just think it's fairy tales. And then they hear, when you said, I heard the word of God, talk to me. One, I do want to note this. I like how you said you've only heard it once.
Yeah.
Because I resonate with that a lot. You're talking to a guy right now, or a gal, she's having the similar troubles. You know what I mean? She's, doing drugs. She's chemically dependent upon it. And, she's not in her right state of mind because she's scared, thinks everything's out to get her, can't get anywhere. And then she goes online and she sees a pastor or a reel or something and it talks to her, right? It whispers to her, right? And then she does it again, follows the same kind of cadence that you did. But then, quickly later, she's all of a sudden back around the same group of people or back in the same scenario because our attention spans are so short. And she doesn't necessarily hear that word, or she doesn't recognize that the word that God's speaking to her. He's just talking to her with nudges and little things. How do you get them to, and I don't want to say buy in, that's the poor choice of words, but how do you get them to understand that, the sacrifice, giving up yourself to the Lord and giving up yourself to that relationship can erase all of that when they're just constantly jammed with propaganda, constantly jammed with distractions and old habits and things like that, because it's a little different 30 years ago.
Sure.
39 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have so much, so we could get caught up in a lane and kind of go with it. Now you get caught up in a lane and then all of a sudden you got another lane. You start off as a dirt road and it's next thing you know, it's a 5-lane paved freeway.
Yeah.
How do you convey that message, without sounding, so like, well, God said it, so that's the way it is. Cause that's one of the problems I had is I would ask these questions from a man who had a better relationship at the time with God than I did. But when the relationship came, when the answer came back, it was just always like a blanket statement. Well, that's God's way. Yeah, I get that. But God also put me here to do free will. He put me here to make my own choices and decisions. What else? I need a little bit more information. Can you help? Well, that's just the way God does it. Coincidentally enough, those people really didn't have the receipts. But, talk more about that. I don't know if I explained that really well, but I kind of like hearing that word, hearing God's voice when you're just so lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does that impact somebody who's struggling right now?
Yeah, I think that the things that are going to hang us up are, I think when people, I wouldn't even say my advice, my urging to anyone, particularly with the way we're being bombarded by the way we're bombarded today, is when you sense something like that, go after it. And the one thing that I never thought when I was encountered at all was that I was about to give something up. When you sense this urging from God, he is literally coming to rescue you and save you. He's not coming to ask you to give something up, to walk away to something that's going to be a little bit better. I mean, he was literally coming to save my life. I would encourage people, let's get past the church stuff. First of all, man, this whole thing of he's coming for a relationship with whoever that person is. And he's coming in the reality of who a person is, right? I mean,
Yes,
we look at it as some sort of religion where God is this grandfather that's angry, and he's got a son that makes it okay if we hang out in his house with him,
right?
And that's so wrong, man. That's been so built by these religious platforms. He is one who is a father who had a son and is so invested in us in a real relationship that he would let his son die for us to satisfy the need for us to be able to get to him. He is longing to bring us out of all of those places, but it's in a real way. It's in a living way, in a relationship.
So basically, you know what I mean? And this is funny because I thought this forever. I thought that once I gave it up to God, that all of a sudden I had to be this lily white person who did no wrong, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that notion. And when I found that, when I finally did it, I'll share a quick experience for me. You know, I got locked up, and we had talked about this before, and I started reading the Bible, right? I've tried to read the Bible forever, and I ain't gonna lie, them first couple of books are really rough to get through.
Yeah.
But
everybody dumps at Leviticus.
Man, right there, Numbers in Leviticus. I'm like, oh. But lucky for me, I had plenty of time on my hands. But I was on work release for the first 3 months, so I was distracted with a breakup, distracted with my kids not having a father, distracted with still doing things on the side that I shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
And when I got jammed up and they put me on the block for 5 months, I really had more time to sit. And once I got through the Old Testament, and I got to where, and I've heard all the stories. I grew up in Bible school, or I grew up on Sunday school and things like that. But you know, reading it in that time of life was a little different for me. And the book, I'll never, you know, forget this, and I'll never forget this experience. This is how I interpret it. You know, you probably do a better job, so please forgive me if I mess it up. But basically, the rich man came to Jesus and said, "Jesus, how do I get into heaven?" And Jesus like, "Get rid of all your stuff and follow me." Rich man's like, "You crazy?" You know what I mean? Like, I got donkey, I got wives, I got this and I got that. And the way that I interpret it is Jesus was like, "How dare you disrespect me? You asked me how to get in heaven. I tell you the way, and now you got a better plan." And it gets me every time, dude. Because I never forget this moment, man. So, I don't know what it was about that day. It just broke me. It just broke me. And I'm by myself in the cell, and it's like 5:45, 5:30. We haven't even gotten out for breakfast, and I've never cried harder. And I just, this happened like 10 years ago, so forgive me. Anyway, I just prayed I didn't want to be bad anymore. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to be bad anymore. And then that was it. You know what I mean? And, you know, at that point, I was like, look, you're going to lead. Brandon's not going to lead anymore. Okay. And I'm not a big holier than thou guy. My relationship's very strong. I never heard him say nothing to me. I never heard him say anything to me. And it just got harder in there. You know what I mean? Like each time, but I did exactly what you said. I just kept going to him.
Yeah.
And working with that relationship. And he's very funny. You know what I mean? God is, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And hopefully he gets my humor, because I'm very crude with my humor. But, man, I would have a moment where I would like face some sort of adversity, and I would just pray about it, and literally the doors would open at count, and somebody would walk in with an answer.
Yeah.
Or I would get on the phone after I couldn't get off the phone for hours, and you know what I mean? Boom, that was so he would keep nudging me, telling me he was there. And why I brought that up is because I thought that I had to be like so holier than thou with my approach, and I couldn't do anything wrong. And it's a real living relationship like you talked about. And I still fall short, and he still loves me. And I think about the relationship with my wife, the relationship with my kids, with my friends, how we all fall short with each other, but we still love each other. We still, you know, now I'm not rescuing them, and he's rescuing me. But that was my big experience with what you're saying in relation to that. And I would follow up with a question is, do you find yourself still, you know, and I know it's easy to say yes because of the humility side, but like, you know, do you find yourself still, you know, falling short and feeling that rescuing, you know what I mean? Like even today, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, man, because that moment hit me hard, so I apologize.
No, that's it, man.
Usually I'm a tough guy, but you know, it really did. But how about you? Do you still find yourself like in those moments where you're like falling really short and you're still building that relationship? Because one looks at a pastor like, well, he's a pastor. He doesn't do wrong, right? He does not face with temptation, right? Which we all know. Yeah. I know that that's not true.
Yeah, bro. First, let me speak to this whole thing of, you know, because yes, I'm the last 8 years of my life after 29 years of ministry, the last 8 years of my life have been the most transforming and the most radical of my life.
And how old are you? Just for context.
I'm 65 now.
65, yeah.
Yeah, man. Started,
so, seasoned, older man. You know
seasoned,
what I mean?
Man. Yep. Seasoned, and you think you've arrived, and then yeah, man. It's about continually falling short. Not falling short. It's about continually being transformed, man. Mm. You know, first of all, speaking to the whole thing of, you know, there's this. religious mindset that I have to be perfect. I have to read X amount of chapters. I have to pray. I have to do this. I have to go to church, right? It's behavioral modification, man. There's no life in that. You can't behaviorally modify yourself in your relationship with God. You can't make yourself do better. That's the reason you were having those encounters 10 years ago, and I had it almost 39 years ago, is that there was a real God coming in search of you because you're crying out, I can't do this. I can't be good. I want to be good. I can't do this. That's the relationship. It's not. So why would we, I can't do this, and then get changed into some place over here where people are telling us, well, if you just do this, you can do this. No, you can't. It's our entire lives. It's dependent upon him. And this word of God is just the very words of God to strengthen us and instruct us in how to do it. But the whole thing, all of our lives is going to be, I can't do this. Save me, save me, save me, for all of our lives. That's what the relationship is. Man, I would just say to somebody today, if what you're looking for, don't think that it's something that you have to do right or wrong. You just need to cry out to the one who can save us. You know, yeah, man, I'm 2017, man, it's rocking. I mean, church is rocking. Performance, platform, personality, it's all those things. And I got a baseball organization on the side running 150 kids called Man Up Baseball. I've got my son getting ready to sign to the University of South Carolina to play in the SEC. I'm coaching a national team that's putting on our roster that year and every year since, called Canes Baseball. They're putting their top 25 on their national team or going in the first 5 rounds of the MLB draft. You know, everything's rocking for me. And I come home, and one of my pastors has told me that he's leaving to go plant a church in Fruitland. A year or two later, another pastor just gets up out of a meeting with half the board and walks out and goes and starts another church here in the area. I'm thinking that, I'm like, what's going on here, man? Coup, everybody's against me, blah, blah, blah. There's all kind of internal strife. Things are falling apart, man. Yeah. I'm praying one day, and I have this strong sense when I'm praying. I'm like, man, this is darkness. We need to get rid of this. And I have this sense inside of me as I'm sitting there that it's not an audible voice. I just have this sense that something is saying to me, it's not darkness, it's me. I came to save you again. Because we're always in need of being saved, man. Everything was, it was him, and then it built up until it became all about me. And then he needed to bring me back to where it's just him again. Wow. And then now here I am in the last season of my life. I love it, man. 65 years old. You're on a football field, man. You're in high school or college football. And when the fourth quarter starts, man, everybody's doing this, bro. Yeah. And I love the fact that I'm at the place where I'm doing this. And the only thing I got left, man, is the thing I started with, which is, and when I say the only thing I got left, we're building a social media platform. Sure. We're doing great. We're retired. We're going to be with our family. We're
not quitting.
No, not quitting, man. Yeah. I'm saying that it started with this, with just him. And now it's back to, how can I just bring honor to you for this last season of my life?
That's incredible. I love how you just did the full weave, because I asked you that at the beginning, and it brought, there's your transcending moment right there in 2017, 2018. Yeah. That's incredible, man. Do you think that, I know you've reached a lot of people and touched a lot of people. Do you think that you reach more people from the pulpit or from things like this, where the conversations? Because, it's like, this is, to me, I'm getting a master class of faith. And again, I don't feel preached to. I don't feel jammed down my throat. I'm getting like and obviously you can't do this with everybody, but the opportunity, I know you have so many of these conversations, and you've had so many of these one-on-one, one-on-three, little group conversations. For the pastor is preaching from the word, and he's got a message, and he's, it's a routine, right? In so many words. But the conversationalists that you have, in the locker room downstairs when we first met, or, wherever, you know what I mean? This is like a masterclass. I've learned personally, and you think you know so much, but I've personally learned so much perspective that it's going to take me 2-3 days to really process this. And that's how I am. I'll be in the shower tomorrow night. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what, oh, you know what I mean? Or, you know, and I'll probably be calling you 15 more times for more questions. Do you think you reach more people like this or from the pulpit?
No, I think like this, man.
Really?
Yeah. I recently heard a guy named Philip Anthony Mitchell, which I love, man. 2819 Church. I'll plug that right now. Dude's fire. A 40-year-old guy in Atlanta. But I recently heard him say that the pulpit was actually the cross that he had to bear. I feel like those 29 years, man, I couldn't tell you the amount of times I didn't want to be there.
Really? I
was just answering a call to you for the Lord to use my voice to preach the gospel. But no, man, clearly my wife would attest to this. Anybody that knows me, it's and remember the Titans. Remember the movie? Remember the Titans?
Of course.
Herman Boone, man, 50-yard line with the principal. Nobody there. Lights click on. Empty stadium. He looks around and goes, "Ooh, this is my sanctuary." Man, when I roll up in this gym or I roll up on a baseball field or I roll up somewhere to a coffee shop with someone, I'm like, this is what I was created for.
It's funny you say that because before my experience, I didn't start MMA until I was 29, 30 years old. I was, grew up a hustler and lived a hustler's life. And the next thing you know, I'm gaining weight. I was an athlete. I played football, basketball, baseball, not to the magnitude that you did, but I played for high school, stuff like that, and in the neighborhoods. And I didn't, I just wanted to get in shape. I really didn't want to do anything more, and started working out with a buddy, pop. And then about 3 months in, I started, I was beating everybody in the gym, and these guys were, lifelong martial artists. And I'm just this, thug off the streets. So, I had to try it out. I had to try competing. And, it's funny you say that because when you're in camp and going through the most torturous moments and you're isolated mentally, and it's, nothing of this is nothing that doesn't resonate with you. You're in camp, you got to eat clean, you're getting beat up every single day. Nothing's ever good enough, but you're fighting towards this goal to perform, on fight night, at the highest level. And also you made weight and also all these components. Man, I'd drive to work in the morning, at like 7:00 and just get caught up with emotion because, I just felt like that spiritual side hit me, even though I wasn't really, going to church and I wasn't doing anything. I've always had God in my life. I grew up in the church. So I was always scared of the, repercussions. I was always scared of going up there and finding out like he wasn't real, right? Like that was I had that good conscience of
sure,
I understand, and stuff like that. And I tell you, man, I'd get emotional just going to work over nothing, just thinking in my thoughts or whatever, just like, and not like a sad, like a proud pride, like I'm doing the right thing. And then now, here it's like, man, I never in a million years would expect it to be in a position on a freaking podcast, talking to, a gentleman like yourself, or being able to affect thousands of people through online and in my gym. It's my sanctuary. It's where I'm called to do. I'm called to be here, and it just, I understand what you're saying so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, if I could, right there with that, when I'm in the gym the last 29 years, I remember, man, getting a membership with Tony 27 years ago, man. You talk about here, people all say all this stuff in the church, and sometimes it's some wonky stuff, man.
Yeah.
About people, God said, and, prophetic words. And I believe in that stuff, man, but it just gets really whack sometimes.
Sure.
But you talk about one of the first urges I ever got, man, was right after this encounter with God in Palm Beach, was opening the curtains wide on this apartment I was staying in, looking across the street, and there was a gym across the street there in North Palm Beach. And I sensed something on the inside of me saying, and I believe it was this urging or prophetic thing from God. It said, go over there, get in there, and don't ever come out. It's going to be a part of saving your life. See, we want to talk about all the spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
But, man, it was within a week I was in the gym and never been out, man. 29 years, man. I tell my wife all the time, I've told her for 30 years, and I just had this mini little revelatory thing right now thinking about it. I would always tell my wife, I really would rather not be in the church. I would rather be in the gym all the time. If I could figure out a way to get paid to do this, this is where I would live.
Yep.
And I just had this thought sitting here talking to you. I was never intended to get paid to do this because it's not what I do. It's who I am. And he created me that this is my sanctuary. He gave me a life that will be a witness and a testimony through what I did right?
Yeah.
Just like he created you. And it's to bring honor to him, man. And all of that is when I'm in the gym for 29 years, working out with dudes for 29 years, half my age, or people that are coming and going and talking to people, there's nothing churchy about it. There's nothing religious about it. It's my life, that person's life. Most of the people in the gym know me as Coach Bill. They don't know me as Pastor Bill. So it's just, yeah, man, it's much more real doing this because it's the real life of who I am and the real life of who you are. It makes sense?
I do because, a lot of people say, Branden, they hear my stuff on the internet and I get way more flowers than I deserve, but they're like, Branden, you should be a pastor. Branden, you should be a politician. Branden, I'm like, I'm in the people. I'm with the people. When you walk into my threshold at this gym, I've said this before, we don't ask you who you pray to. We don't ask you who you voted for. We don't ask you who you love. We don't ask you what color, race, creed, where you work, what you've done. When you come in this gym, you're a fighter, okay? And you're a human. That's it. That's it. You're just a male or female human, right? And if you want to be something else, that's on you. We don't got time to worry about what you want to do or what you want to be. And you find out that because you're a fighter now, you're fighting something in life. Everyone's fighting, right? We're all fighting every day. And then what that does is that brings all these real people on ground zero together with a guardrail of saying, you know what? If I choose to give up my perspective or ask for your perspective, we got a guardrail because you'll punch me in my face. You'll choke me out.
Right.
So now I got to respect your perspective. I don't have to agree. Don't have to like it. I got to respect it. And if we have a relationship, we can actually start talking about that even further, not to change one's mind, to learn from each other. You know what I mean? My job is not to change these people's minds on how to live their lives. My job is to live by the example and to give them perspective on what works for me and what doesn't work for me and how I can and cannot impact them. And then they take that and they can process that and do what they need to do. And if they want to change their life, wonderful. If you want to live by like I do, great. If you want to do better than me, I hope so, right? It's not, and again, I say this all the time too, it's not me. It's God. Yeah. I'm just the vessel. You know what I mean? I'm just happen to follow the minute Branden Hudson makes this about Branden Hudson, I know he's going to take it all away.
Yeah.
And because I've done that so many times in my life where I start reading my own press clippings, I start believing all the hype about me, get my ego involved. And then, next thing you know, it's all taken, you know what I mean? Because I don't let him lead. And, you know what I mean?
I love that. You're not, you're not trying to, it's not my responsibility to convince anyone or convert anyone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not.
I'm just here to give the perspective.
It's my responsibility to roll up in and out of the gym or do whatever I did. Just so happened I was in the church, so I had this platform that honed in on that.
Sure.
But in real life, man, it's not my responsibility to convince anyone or convict anyone, to be a follower of Christ. It's not, man. My responsibility is to honor the one that I know saved my life.
Absolutely.
And I know it's reality. And if it's reality with you, we don't hang anything over the door. Our responsibility is just to say to him every day, how can I honor you? And because you have the answers to my life.
And to pull this full circle, just like you would honor any other healthy relationship in your life.
Yeah.
Who saved you? Like our wives or our kids or our best friend who had our backs and, times that we needed them. We honor those relationships. And I love that. Yeah. Listen, we are way, this conversation went so fast. So.
Oh, wow. We done?
Yeah, not quite. I got another question for you.
Yeah,
I'm going to give you perspective and I want to hear what you think. Not everybody. So many people want to decipher the Bible. So many people want to break it down. Well, what does this mean? What does that mean? Well, this, that, and the third. They, how can somebody, build an ark and float for, 40 days and how could this, how can that, you know what I mean? And so many people spend so much time, in my opinion, trying to decipher the Bible that we do know that was written by man physically, you know what I mean? Not created by man, but written by man. We do know that has had alterations, right? It has had translations where there are different elements to the Word of God, to the Bible. I always tell people this, all right? I'm like, listen, if you spend more time learning from it than trying to decipher it, it probably would help your life.
Right.
I don't know of anywhere where when you're putting the Lord first, your faith first, right, where that's ever been a bad thing. There's been unfortunate circumstances, and there's been people that have taken advantage of their power, people that have taken advantage of you. We're all going to wear the hat of victim, unfortunately. Not victimhood. We're all going to be a victim at some point in this game of life where we
Always.
walked down an alley and got mugged, or somebody scammed us from, Nigeria or something like
Right.
that. But I always tell the people, why don't you spend more time deciphering it and learning from it? Or why don't you spend more people, Rebecca, I tell people, why don't you spend more time trying to learn from it opposed to trying to decipher from it?
Yeah.
What could have hurt? What are your thoughts about that? The people that want to break everything down, but they don't really necessarily live in the church or have a relationship. They just want to look at it from a scholar's point of view, and so forth. What are your thoughts on that?
Jesus in the scriptures in the New Testament speaks to the Pharisees, and he tells them that, you all have this way above everybody else knowledge of the word of God, but it has no ability to save you. It's, I mean, you can spend your whole life with that and never be free, never experience even who God is. I just say two things to that, two short passages of scripture. One in John 1:1, through 3, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then in verse 14 it says, the Word, which literally means that word you're reading, the Logos, became flesh, which is Jesus. There's another passage of scripture in the Gospels, and all 4 of them, that says, man does not live off of bread alone, but every word, which is, the word there means rhema, which is every word that comes from the mouth of God, that God speaks to you from his word. So get off all the other and just make it personal. Stop trying. Why? And
Go back to the relationship.
I was going to say, why in the HE double hockey sticks are we spending time trying to judge the very thing that is intended to bring us life?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying, bro?
I agree.
It's like, just believe that it's God,
Yep.
and that he's got a word from his mouth for you from it, and live in it for the rest of your life.
Or at the very least, just believe that'll help you.
Yeah.
At the very least.
At the very least.
If you're not
that's
bought
good.
in, if you don't want to do it, just believe that this is kind of a guideline to life.
That's good. That's a good start, bro. I'm 40 years in, so I'm like, just give it all up.
Yeah.
But no, we start over here with believe it. And here's the deal, man. Believe it, test it, look at it, cry out to the same God and the same man, Jesus Christ, that we're talking about today. And bro, if he doesn't respond and the word doesn't speak to your heart, then I would challenge and say it's not real. But I have so much confidence in the fact that he will, that it's real, man.
Absolutely.
Just do that and see what happens.
I love it. Well, listen, this 47 minutes flew by, man. I'm super grateful that you came on the show, and even more so grateful of the stuff that I got to gnaw on and process. We've had a couple interactions here at the gym for the past 5 years, 10 years, Jesus. But nothing was like this. So it really impacted me. And I just want to say thank you for what you've done for, the community in general. You know what I mean? Whether it been baseball, whether it been the gym, the one-on-ones, obviously the church and so forth. I know what it feels like on a personal level, and I'm not comparing myself at all, but I know what I feel like. And I walk into this beautiful facility with all this nice equipment and everything, and I'll look at it, I'm like, where's the next mountain I got to climb? And I stop. I don't always stop to appreciate what I've built or what I've done or who I'm effective. And you know what I mean? And I think that's just high performers. I think that's just people in general, where once we climb that one mountain, we're looking at the next one to climb instead of just appreciating the view. And I know for a fact that you've impacted so many people. I see the people that, you talk to on a regular basis. I see your little squad down there, your squads, you got a couple of them. And those are really good humans, and I know that you have an effect on that. And I'm not trying to glaze you or anything like that. I'm trying to really say thank you, because I'm very passionate about my community. I'm very passionate about coming from a dark place and trying to impact. And I'm even more passionate about doing it the hard way and not just doing it the easy way. And every day that you got to go into the church, or you got to go into baseball practice, or as a coach, or the gym, just like every day I got to come in here and get beat up by kids half my age, symbolizes that we do it the hard way. We make that sacrifice. So, I look forward to being a guest on your podcast when you start.
Yeah, let's go.
And I do thank you for everything. And I mean, maybe we can get you back on here if that works out with scheduling and stuff when you come visit, because this has been a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah, let's do it, Branden. I so appreciate you having me on, man.
Thank you. Real quick, how can people find you? Where this is time for plugs. Any social media? No, I wouldn't do the cell phone. But if you have any way that you want to put anything out there,
we'll get back with you. As far as personal stuff, no, we shut all that down. I mean, I got my own Instagram account, my own Facebook account, but We just developed a thing online called Marked, M-A-R-K-E-D, Marked Ministries. We'll be launching that sometime in the early spring on Instagram and on the social media platforms. Got a brand, got a logo, developing some stuff, just putting out some devotionals weekly to actually really excited about 100 people here in the States, but jumped on WhatsApp and it's reaching over 3,500 people in Uganda right now.
Oh, wow.
And so we're
That's
developing that slowly, but I can get back with you. We can do it again, or you can plug me on one later when we get everything developed.
Absolutely. What's your Instagram handle?
Bill, it's Bill Cropper -220.
Okay. BILLCROPPER. Yep.
Yeah.
-220. All
Yeah.
right. Well, guys, there you have it, man. I knew this was going to be a great episode. And again, if you get value or you know somebody that would get value from this episode, I know you guys are going to share this all over. Send it to them. Okay. It'll never hurt you to hit that copy button or that share button. Send it to somebody that you think could listen to this and let them hear some of the magic we heard today, because this is one of probably my favorite episodes I've had. Other than that, please like and subscribe to the channels, and if you're ever so kind, give us a review. Until next time, guys, what are you doing today to become a champion?